So there's always been this misnomer, if you will, about how the fish just recklessly chew as the front approaches. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. There is a window when that happens. But I can tell you're gonna have to endure some pretty tough conditions. I mean, with wind and just extreme issues that go on. That's why we call this fishing impossible. In this episode, we're fishing with Captain JC Livingston. He's a native guide here and maybe one of the most well-rounded personalities to do almost anything here, whether you're grouper fishing, inshore fishing, fly fishing for tarpon, duck hunting. He's really a one-stop shop guide service.
Me being a native to Citrus County, I kind of like the change of seasons and keeping myself versatile to where I can fly fish in the spring, tarpon fish in the summer, grouper fish in the fall, then go into my waterfowl and redfishing and trout fishing in the wintertime. I like the change of pace.
So our game plan coming out of plantation, running out there today with a water temp being closer to 61, 62 degrees, front's coming. Wind's gonna keep getting harder and harder blowing out of the northeast. It's gonna drop the water quite a bit. So what's the plan with falling water in the morning?
We're gonna try to get back in as far as we can in the beginning and kind of float out with it.
Float out with the tide.
Yep, and see if we can find some of them tailing redfish on that outgoing.
Okay.
And sight fish a few along the mangrove banks and everything like that.
One of the things that people don't take into account this time of year, because there's a lack of bait fish in many of those places, is those redfish eat invertebrates. So I brought plenty of those little wormy looking baits that they just love to slurp up.
The wormy and the crawlier, the better.
The better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't fished out of Crystal River in forever. I mean, literally, I live here and I don't fish here. It's crazy. It's crazy. So this is a treat.
Oh yeah.
Getting reacquainted. This time of year, planning fishing trips can be a challenge. It's not just the weather, it's our schedules. This is duck hunting season, and JC is one of the busiest duck hunting guides there is in the entire West Coast area. And then myself, this is the time of year when I'm traveling to do boat shows and seminars and fishing schools. I wanted to be ready for this episode, so I went and I did my homework on the timing of the front, how we were going to fish it, all the weather reports I could collect, the tides, you name it. Even drove up to Sodium and bought the baits that I wanted to use for this particular episode. I mean, I was ready. There we go. Ooh, he's popping up top.
Popping. Good one too.
It is. That is a solid specimen. I like how heavy these fish are. Be careful.
Barely hit.
When you're looking for trout, like on a hard outgoing like this, what type of bottom are you looking for? Are you looking for rock, or are you looking for a combination of rock and grass? Because that's what it looks like is in here.
Right now with this cold water, I'm looking for rock and grass.
Rock and grass.
And a spottier bottom, because that's usually, when they're sitting there, they're all kind of ganged up, moving that sand around. That's usually where you'll find them, is on that hard bottom where they kind of brushed it off. A lot of them will hit it on the float. Like that one.
Like that. Might have to go to that lighter bait.
Or one of these.
Still, not as big as the last one, but big, or respectable, I should say.
Respectable, healthy.
When you see the way they're reacting, this bait is sinking a little too fast and that one's hanging up higher.
Yeah, it's just that slow float.
And it's that slow float that gets them. They do love that cool water though.
They do.
The catalyst of naming this show, this particular episode with Captain JC, Fishin' Impossible 2, is because about 3 or 4 seasons ago, I was fishing with a young guide once again in Charlotte Harbor, and we had the most incredible poor conditions with winds of 15 to 25 knots with gusts over 30. And it was such a challenge that we decided to call that episode with Captain Cody Pierce, Fishin' Impossible. When we got out there and we were running over the chop and we were trying to set up in these places and I could hear my pants snapping and he's trying to control the boat from the poling platform, all I could think of is, this is naturally going to be the sequel to Fishin' Impossible.
There you go. That's the right color, isn't it?
The right color. Come over here. See how they like to get that thing head first.
They do.
I like to get it head first. Another one that's tall in the back.
He wanted that one though.
Yeah, he did. You give it that long pause, I mean, you gotta let it fall. If it's not falling, they don't want it.
They won't eat it.
Pretty fish. It's that yo-yo effect where it shimmies.
Yep.
It's right when it shimmies down on the slack line, that's when they want to eat. That's when they thump it. So it's like you pull it up and it races up through halfway up the water column, and when it starts to just kind of shimmy down like that and on the slack,
That's when they grab it.
that's when they grab it. Thing is are you paying attention enough to get it, especially with the wind putting a big bow in the line?
Making it difficult.
It's making it hard. It's making it hard. But these little Deans, boy, they're perfect for this.
Yeah, even with this heavy wind and these tough conditions, we're still making it happen.
We're making it happen.
We're just waiting on a little more tide to come in and start getting out of it.
So knowing that we were going to have east wind that was going to blow anywhere between 15 knots and 25 knots, I know that sounds crazy. There's only a few ways you can approach fishing when that happens. So I wanted to make sure we lined up zones where we could drift fish, basically let the wind help us find trout and go down an edge, because plan B was to tuck up behind island points and let the mangrove shoreline act as a windbreak. But you gotta keep in mind, all of this stuff affects the casting angle, how the bait works, can you stay in contact with it? There's a lot of thought that goes into how you have to approach fishing windy conditions like this. Oh yeah. He hit that thing like a truck.
Good one too.
Woo! All over the surface. Get him down low like Bill. Bill Dance. He hammered that thing. That's a 5 or 6 inch long bait. He ate it.
Gone.
Well, we caught our share of these today.
Yeah, we did.
We really did. I'll get this guy back in the water. Maybe we should tuck up inside somewhere and try to catch a couple of redfish.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, this is getting a little crazy out here. So based off the tides and how hard the wind was blowing, we knew we would not have enough water to be able to fish for the reds. So let's start trout fishing. We're gonna have enough water to trout fish, and especially how they like to pile up in the mouths of the creek on that low water, that was the ticket. As soon as we got to the bottom of the tide and that grass leaned over coming back in and it allowed for those reds to move up the flat, that is when we went red fishing. I don't think anyone is immune to the fact that fishing can be tough and you've got to make the most of your opportunities. And I've had plenty of fishing days in my history as a guide, as a tournament pro, and as a television host, where you're grinding for that one bite that means everything, that one big bite.
Yeah, see, there's a big one, two right there at your 11, 12, no, keep going left, right there. See them going up towards the bank? There's 2 big stout ones.
I'm gonna let them come right to it. There he is, there we go.
Bruiser.
Right where he was supposed to be. A bruiser. The Red October, right there. That was that big one. That was probably pushing around on that shoreline that kept finning up in front of us. Bait change was worth it.
Yeah, big time.
Big time worth it.
Oh, that's a thick fish.
Yeah, it's a big fish.
15.
Strong in the colder water.
You still got him. Come on.
Oh. JC, that is a big one.
That's a bruiser.
That is a big one.
That's when you want it. All in the roof of his mouth. I think that almost got her.
Well, yeah. You just saw a little crab swim by, and he hit it.
We've been after those.
I'll bet that fish is 30 inches long.
You want to take a look?
Yeah, take a quick look. Just get a rough measurement.
Yeah.
28, almost 29. Pretty good guess.
Yeah.
You know, with the water temperature as chilly as it is, 61, 62 degrees, I mean, when you put them in the water, just as soon as that water gets in their mouth, they're off and on their way.
They're ready to go then.
Ready to go. That was great, man. Great look for them. Appreciate that. This time of year, when I'm choosing tackle to target redfish, I'm generally picking what we would call invertebrate style baits, worm-like baits. This is a Z-Man Big TRD. This is where I've cut down a 6-inch darters to 4.5 inches. This is a trick shot. It's about 4 inches long. These are the style baits that I use this time of year when I'm sight fishing redfish. But because the wind was such a challenge, I was having to vacillate back and forth what lures cast well versus what lures they want. So I settled in after catching one fish on a TRD bait. I settled in throwing some of the bugs jigs, the beastie bugs, the redfish curl jig. Those were the ones because they're head weighted and I could punch them through the wind because much of the casting angles were into the wind behind islands where the water was clean. Now for the trout, I was using my Terramar XX. This is a 6'9" medium action rod, a Tranx 150, which was something that was just launched last year. It's built for the inshore angler. I opted for a Miradine. JC told me that they'd been catching lots of trout in the creek mouths, in deeper water, and the key to working the MR17 in these natural skin series colors was to toss it up tide, let the bait kind of just rattle down for 3 or 4 seconds and get down to about mid-water column, and then kick, 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 and then just let it fall the rest of the way, almost all the way to the bottom, then lift, lift, and once the line would get tight, then reel up, do it again. Because he goes, all the fish are sitting down in the bottom in the sandy holes. That's how you're gonna catch them. But this 1-2 punch of using the MirrOlure hard baits for the trout, and then going to the soft baits and to the bugs fishing jigs for the redfish, these baits allowed us both to not only give the fish what they wanted, but to give me a few casting options to deliver it to the right spot. And in the end, we had a great day of fishing because we made those decisions. The coach from UCLA, John Wooden, said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. That is so true when you do this. I don't have one plan. I have 2 or 3 plans in my head thinking, if this doesn't work, we can do that. And if that doesn't work, we can do this. And it certainly helped to have someone like JC Livingston, who had so much experience in the body of water that we were fishing, that we could really adapt to everything that was happening as it was happening, because things were changing very fast. Yeah, baby. I was going to be upset if he didn't do it. I was going to be upset if he didn't do it.
He had to.
He looked like he wanted it. Yeah, I mean, once he got in behind it, then you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when they make the close on the jig.
It's another good
Fighting
one.
them in this tide is different.
It's like bringing in a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, it's definitely like you got a windsock on the back of them. Respectable fish.
Respectable.
Right in the corner of the
Right
jowl.
in the corner.
That little bug's jig that's the little beastie bug. It looks just like a baby blue crab. It's such a good little bait.
I'm gonna have to get a few more of them.
Yeah, they are just beautiful. The way they swim, nice fat fish. That one had his head down. I could see him. I could get a good line on that one with the sun at this angle.
Well, it's nice now that we got to see one further out than when right
Yeah,
at the
so
boat.
you don't see them as they move away.
Yeah.
Those fish are just so pretty in here. I mean, crustaceans are what they're after. Crustaceans and some invertebrates. I mean, the worm and the bugs have been just nails in here. Fins are standing up. Nice cool water. He's ready to swim. Woo!
You know, being a part of Fishing Impossible too, you know, we were dealt with some pretty hard weather conditions, and me and CA came up with a good game plan, and we knew that we were going to have a small window to catch our fish and get our bites on a day that most people wouldn't even have got their boat wet. And we came up with a good mess of fish that day.
When you consider everything that took place, it was quite successful. It tested the mettle of not only the guy on the pulling platform, but the angler on the bow. Because if we're not both confident and both resolved to make this thing happen, we don't catch fish at all today. Because when we were calling around after it was all over to our contemporaries to see how they did, many of them didn't even leave the dock.